Good morning, Mr. and Mrs. Grimes. Brian Buffington here. It's a pleasure to be with you here today to talk about your financial plans for retirement. Before I dive into the plans, what I'd like to do is just verify some of the information I've obtained because this information is key to the analysis I've done and the suggestions I'm going to make for you. First of all, Rick, just want to verify you're 48 years old. You currently make $110,000 per year. You are married to Darla. The two of you reside in the state of Texas, and you plan to retire in Texas. Darla wanted to verify that you are 51 years of age. You're currently part-time employed, making $20,000 a year. In terms of your retirement plans, Rick, you are planning to continue working until you hit age 65. Darla, your plans are to continue working until you hit age 68 and basically retire at the same time that Rick does. So these are the assumptions that I am using in my plan. Secondly, I understand that you have one child named Corby. Corby is currently 16 years old. And may possibly be attending college in the next few years. So that's something we want to talk about in your financial planning as well. Thank you for filling out the information with regard to your expectations upon retirement. What you've told me is you both intend to live an active lifestyle. You'd like to have time to travel. You really enjoy traveling. And you want to have time with friends and family. Additionally, one of the things you told me is that you want a really low stress, peace of mind retirement. And that goes to your concerns. The primary concerns you've identified for me are you're concerned about running out of money. You want to be confident that you have enough money saved to fund your retirement. You're concerned about outliving your money. And of course, you're concerned about keeping your health. Secondarily, you would like to leave a bequest to your son, and we'll talk a little bit about that. We have a couple options there, but a bequest is really of secondary importance compared to your lifestyle in retirement. So the next thing I'd like to do is just talk about the length of a retirement plan. Based on all the information that you provided me, I believe we need the plan to be a 33-year post-retirement plan. That's based on the information, Rick, you gave that tells me for you we need to plan for you to live to at least 92 years old. And Darla, because of longevity in your family, your plan needs to take you to age 100. Which all in all means that our retirement plan needs to go for 33 years post-retirement. So this is key to the assumptions I've made in your plan. In terms of the goals you told me, your goals are relatively straightforward. You believe that you could live very comfortably on $100,000 per year, adjusted for inflation upon retirement. Additionally, the only two special requests you made is you'd like to have funds to purchase new cars and trucks on a routine basis early in your retirement. And I have those requirements put into your expense plan. So this is fundamentally my understanding of what your retirement income needs will be. With regard to funding retirement, you had told me that Darla has a pension of $24,000 a year that will be adjusted for inflation upon her retirement. Additionally, you have been working very hard to save investment assets for retirement. My understanding is that you both have 401ks. You also have a traditional IRA. So the amount of money you currently have in retirement plans is $900,000. You also have a fully paid off house with a market value of $200,000. that I have not put in your retirement plan. You had indicated interest in bequesting that house to your son Corby, if at all possible, at the end of your plan. So with the assumptions I'm using in your retirement plan, I'm basically utilizing the funds that are currently in your retirement accounts, as well as additional contributions you've noted that you're going to be making through your work savings plan to fund your retirement goals. The next thing I'd like to do before we go into the plans is talk a little bit about your current risk profile. Risk profiles are very important to determine what type of financial portfolio a retirement plan should consist of. You both filled out the risk questionnaires that I requested, and Rick, you had a slightly higher risk profile from Darla. What I've done is I've averaged those profiles and come up with a number of 75 as the family risk profile. A score of 75 as a family risk profile indicates that you would be comfortable with a investment portfolio that is 72% stock and 28% bonds. This particular portfolio, as we're going to discuss, is a little more aggressive in stocks than your current portfolio. It's actually 7% more stocks than your current portfolio, but does in fact have a higher return. So what we're going to recommend is that we move you from your current portfolio of 65% stocks to one that's 72% stocks that has a higher return, as we'll go into, but also slightly higher risk. I want to make sure you're comfortable with the risk of this new portfolio. If you were to have had this portfolio during the Great Recession, you could have experienced a 33% loss in portfolio value. In other words, of your $930,000 investment portfolio during the Great Recession of 2007, you could have lost 33% or $304,000. Of course, if you maintain a portfolio and weren't afraid to stay fully invested in it, you would have fully recouped and then some, which is the reason I mention this. It's very important that you're comfortable with the portfolio and would be willing to stick with the portfolio in both good times and bad. The next concept I want to review before we dig into the investment plans is the concept of efficient frontier. An efficient frontier is basically a plotting of the risks and returns that you would receive with different portfolios, and understanding how a particular portfolio might have a higher return, but there's also risk associated with that return. This is a graphical representation of the efficient frontier with your current portfolio and the recommended portfolio on the efficient frontier. As you can see here, your current portfolio, the 65% stock portfolio, has a projected annual return between now and the end of your plan of 9.1% on average. However, has a risk of 11.24%. That's the standard deviation that could occur on an annual basis. The portfolio I'm recommending you take on has a higher return of 9.3%, but also a higher standard deviation. What you'll see when we go through the portfolio assessments, the financial plan assessments that I'm going to be providing you, and I'm actually going to provide you 5 different options for financial plans. The first plan, which is your current plan, will use your existing investment portfolio. The future plans are going to use the slightly more aggressive investment portfolio that will free up additional returns for additional expenditures and hopefully a higher lifestyle in the future. So with that, I'm going to shift over to my assessment of your current plan and talk about some alternatives. One of the things we do in investment planning is we run something called the Monte Carlo analysis. Because future investment returns are uncertain, we believe that on average over a long period of time, the future will be similar to the past. On a year-to-year basis, that is not the case. So as a result, what we do is we run a statistical analysis called the Monte Carlo analysis, where we use historic returns and historic standard deviations for different investment portfolios to determine what the probability of success is for being able to fund your expected retirement needs. What I have up here on the screen is the Monte Carlo analysis done on your current investment portfolio with your current projected expenses. And as you can see, 960 out of 1,000 times your plan was successful, meaning your plan actually, you had money in your plan at the end of your investment timeline, which means you have money to fund your expected expenses over the duration of the plan, 96%. In general, we believe 96% is too high a number. We typically recommend that the probability of success be between 80% to 90%. And what that does, it allows people the flexibility to spend money earlier in their retirement. And if for some reason their investment portfolio does poorly, they can always cut back on expenses and adjust. What I'm pulling up now is recommendation number 1, which is a system recommendation. The Money Guide Pro software recommends that a retirement plan have approximately 80-81% probability of success. And so what I've done is I've run your retirement plan to allow us to determine what expenses, what money would be available for expenses if we had a targeted 81% probability of success. And shortly you will see the potential extra spending money you would have if you're willing to take this degree of risk on a little earlier in your retirement plan. So all the variables are the same between this recommended scenario from Money Guide Pro, known as the best scenario, and your current scenario in terms of when you'll retire and your savings. And as you can see here, Money Guide Pro says you can actually afford to spend 34% more in retirement than your current plan and still be pretty confident that you will be successful and have money at the end of your plan. Now, based on our discussions, I know that you might be uncomfortable with an 81% success rate. So what I'm going to suggest, I'm going to run a scenario using a feature called Super Solver that will tell us how much money you would be able to spend during retirement if we targeted, let's say, an 85% success rate. Now, the nice thing about the Money Guide Pro planning software is I can put any number in this plan. So once this opens up, I'm going to run it on 85%, and we will see how much money the Money Guide Pro software says you can afford to spend in retirement with an 85% success rate. And this should be pulling up in 1 second. You'll see here, after I show you this scenario, I am going to run 2 additional scenarios, 2 additional recommendations of how you might want to consider planning for your retirement. Because you have saved so well and you have some pretty solid plans for the future, you have a lot of flexibility. So in this case, with an 85% probability of success using the Super Solver, you can see that the system says you can actually increase your overall expenditures in retirement by 28% without changing your retirement dates, without increasing your savings rate. So I thought you would find that of interest. That shows you some of the flexibility you have. Now, what I'm going to do is I have run 2 additional scenarios for you. And these 2 scenarios I'm going to go back to will tell us how much flexibility you have to both increase your spending, possibly pay for Corby's college education, as well as perform some travel. They'll also tell us, what the opportunities are for you to retire early. So give me 1 second, and I'm going to pull this up and show you how this analysis is done. I've actually pre-run this analysis to show you, 2 separate scenarios. Scenario 3, as I call it, I'm going to go to these what if worksheets. Okay, now I will go to what if worksheets where I have previously run two scenarios. Scenario 2, as I call it, basically is a scenario where you continue to retire as planned. Rick at $65, at $68. You are able to increase your expenses from $100,000 a year to $115,000 a year. Additionally, you were able to do some fairly significant travel. I put in 5 trips at $10,000 a trip, or $50,000 in travel, using today's current dollars at retirement. Additionally, with scenario 2, I've provided the option for you to pay for Corby's college education, 4 years at a state university using average tuition rates. As you can see with scenario 2, while increasing your expenditures and allowing yourselves to travel and pay for Corby's education, you still have an 87% chance of success. The last scenario I want to propose to you is known as scenario 3. This is a scenario where you, Rick and Darla, you can retire 4 years earlier. So Rick, you would retire at age 61. Darla, you would retire at age 65. You've said that you're very comfortable with a $100,000 a year spending level. So we keep that $100,000 a year spending level. We keep your vehicle upgrades as planned, but we would budget for some very significant travel. And in scenario 3, what I've done is I have budgeted for $10,000, $12,000 a year trips. So that's $120,000 a year of travel. And that has an 88% chance of success. So overall, what I have here up on the screen is a summary of your current scenario. What if scenario 1, which is the system generated scenario that increases your spending by 34%. The what if scenario 2, in which you retire at your planned retirement age, 65 and 68, pay for Corby's college education, increase travel significantly. And scenario 3, in which you retire 4 years early and have the opportunity to do some really significant travel. So in summary, there's a lot of flexibility here. I have everything documented in the detailed report that I'm providing you. If you have any questions, please feel free to contact me. It's been a pleasure to be of service to you. Take care. Bye.